Brenden Slaughter here for BeaversEdge.com, coming to you live from Allegiant Stadium in Las Vegas, where Oregon State defeated Florida 30-3 to get win number 10 on the year. We just wrapped up the post-game press conference with head coach Jonathan Smith and a handful of players. Make sure to stay tuned to BeaversEdge.com as we'll have that complete reaction. But just breaking down the game itself, again, Oregon State 30-3 over the Florida Gators. They get win number 10, as I mentioned, and just now have the third 10-plus win campaign in program history, obviously joining the illustrious 2000 squad and the 06 team, which went 10-4 as well. So Oregon State thoroughly dismantled Florida in this matchup. All week long, we heard about how, Florida was going to be down some talent, down some players, had a lot of opt-outs, obviously a new quarterback in there. But even still, there was a little bit of, of a sense that, Oregon State had to prove themselves against an SEC team, had to show up and play against a team that, on paper had more talent than they did. Yet Oregon State took that narrative and ran the other way with it in this one. They absolutely blow the doors off of Florida, and by the time it's all said and done, and Florida just narrowly on their final drive avoided the shutout. They had not been shut out since the late 80s, so quite a streak there for Florida. And kudos again to Trent Bray's defense. Oregon State had an outstanding defensive game plan in this one. Jonathan Smith talked about it in the post game. Just mentioned that he's got so much support and confidence in that staff, the defensive staff, the seniors, and down on that were a part of this. And again, Oregon State shuts them out at the half, only allows 3 points in total. And the running game with Florida, they had a couple dynamic running backs coming into the game. Neither one of them are able to get off to a good rhythm. The passing game, not really there either. Meanwhile, for Oregon State, they're able to overcome the loss of Damian Martinez, who gets hurt early in the game. They end up riding to Sean Fenwick. Fenwick ends up getting over 100 yards. Mix in a little bit of some other guys too for the ground game. And then obviously the quarterback situation. Ben took most of the snaps in this game, but you look at what the reason to obviously bring in Tristan Gebbia for a couple of series. Jonathan talked about it post game. Said that he just wanted to get Tristan some reps. He played pretty well in practice this week. Gebbia, obviously the senior, so something there as well. But for the most part, it wasn't it wasn't anything out of the ordinary for Oregon State. It's just who they were. Gulbranson was able to mix in some nice throws via the play action game. After the run got set up, the Beavers ran for some tough yards. Florida made them earn it, I'll give you that. But for the most part, Oregon State was able to do whatever they wanted to do offensively in this game. And then additionally, via the passing game as well, you got to shout out Silas Bolden and John Dunmore to an extent as well. As without Anthony Gould and Trayshawn Harrison in this matchup, those two guys are kind of elevated to bigger roles. They make some plays. Also got Tyjon Lindsey, who got a touchdown as well. So it was all about stepping up. It's the theme of what we've seen for this team this year. This team was motivated and determined to get this 10th win. They talked about it all week leading up to it, and mission achieved. So now the question is going to be, how does the offseason look for Oregon State? What's next? Jack Coletto and Jaden Grant gave a ringing endorsement for Ben to be the quarterback moving forward. Obviously, lots of moving pieces as now, with 10 wins and a Vegas Bowl trophy to boot, Oregon State's a very attractive destination for some of these potential transfer quarterbacks that are on the market, especially with a dynamic running game. The Beavers got 4 offensive linemen coming back, a good amount of talent on the defensive side of the ball as well. And again, as we mentioned, Trent Bray gets an extension a couple weeks ago. Jonathan Smith signs an extension. 2 huge pieces that are invested in this program long-term. The whole staff, the continuity is something we've talked about for years, and you're seeing it pay off today. So again, Oregon State defeats Florida 30-3. They win the Vegas Bowl going away. It was closer at halftime, and then Oregon State was able just to completely put the pedal down, and move on to, a huge win for the program. And you could see, on the face of the seniors, most notably Coletto and Jaden Grant, who, had been through it all, for them to, be back in the situation that they're in and help lead a program from the depths of, a 2-win campaign in their first season all the way to 10 several years later is a monumental accomplishment for those guys. And you could tell they were, really proud of what they had achieved in that post-game press conference. So again, Oregon State defeats Florida 30-3. Make sure to stay tuned to BeaversEdge.com. We'll have complete coverage of the game, breaking it all down and so on and so forth. So again, Oregon State, big win over Florida. They get win number 10. They now head into the offseason looking quite good, and will be definitely looking to reload and retool. And that's the thing Jonathan talked about, is that there's not going to be any players that are resting on their laurels, so to speak. It is this whole program, the culture, the buy-in, it's all there. So again, in more ways than one, the stock of Oregon State's football program is way, way up, and it's definitely the place to be right now. As Oregon State went toe-to-toe with an SEC team. I mean, it sounds silly to say out loud, but those are the kind of narratives that exist in college football, is that Pac-12 isn't as physical as the SEC, and we even saw some of those matchups in the conference this year, most notably when this Florida team, albeit different, beat Utah in the season opener, and we saw, obviously what the number one team in the country did to the school in Eugene. So, for Oregon State to, kind of pull that narrative back the other way, I think is going to be something they're really proud of as a program. So, again, Oregon State 30-3. Stay locked to BeaversEdge.com. We'll have complete coverage. This is Brenden Slaughter signing off from Allegiant Stadium.